The National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, has aired its plan to develop an indigenous blockchain dubbed Nigerium to protect the country's data and promote national security. This move was prompted by the revelation that most popular blockchain technologies like Ethereum were being controlled by foreign developers who may not prioritize Nigeria's interests. Now, joining me from London is Dr. Iwa Salami, Director, Center for Fintech, University of East London. Dr. Salami, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So the idea is to have a blockchain that protects the country's data and promotes national security. What do you make of this, and what specific technical features would you expect such a technology to possess in order to enhance data security?
Okay, so first of all, shall I say that this is still at proposal phase, so nothing has been accepted yet. So NITDA, which is the National Information Technology Development Agency, received this, I'd say, proposal, and I think are considering it. In terms of what it means, the proposal basically tries to ensure that the country has its own blockchain that's, if you like, a platform for public services to be able to deliver basically the services that they should. Now, I have to say that this blockchain, in comparison to other blockchains, or particularly the blockchain that they're comparing it with, which is Ethereum, actually is going to be permissioned. So it's going to be a permissioned blockchain rather than a permissionless blockchain, which is what is said that Ethereum is. And the difference here is that if it's a permissioned blockchain, it basically means it's controlled by a centralized authority. And here, of course, it would be, it would be controlled by the government, the Nigerian government, or through whichever agency is helping to put the infrastructure in place. And so that's a difference. In terms of the actual potential that it would have to protect data for citizens and to be able to ensure that, to a certain extent, cybersecurity is managed, the violation of data is managed. In terms of that, because Nigeria has introduced this National Data Protection Act 2023, basically what you have is a situation where that it would be easier actually for the government to ensure that actually the provisions of the Data Protections Act, which is this National Nigerian Data Protection Act, is actually complied with. And of course, we know that that provision or that act really is about protecting the data of citizens, protecting how data is collected, processed, managed, shared, analyzed, and distributed, everything around the data of individuals.
Okay.
Now, the beauty about it is that that act would be able to be complied with, which isn't presently the case through permissionless blockchains such as Ethereum. And we know this has been the age-old argument with permissionless blockchains. Data is distributed across, and because we still have the issue of sort of who is responsible in decentralized, permissionless blockchains, there's a potential there that, of course, is the situation that data isn't really managed by anybody.
Okay.
So the good thing here really is that the data collected through this blockchain would obviously be compliant with the Nigerian regulation because it's driven by the Nigerian government.
Okay, well, that's why quite noted. Now, at what point, because what is focal from all you've said is to ensure that there's security of data and information for Nigeria. So at what point does the country's cyber security become open to attacks? What are the enablers? Why would a country's social space or digital space be open or prone to cyber attacks?
So, in any country, if there's a drive towards digitalization, there would always be prone to attack from anywhere. It could be domestic, it could be international. If we're digitalizing and we're going in any form, sort of virtual and online, they're always prone to attacks. So there's always going to be a potential for attacks. And this is where robust regimes need to be in existence. Now, if it's a permissioned blockchain, again, there's a need that those robust frameworks exist. And here now we're looking at cybersecurity experts, scientists who are able to come on board with actually building this infrastructure to ensure that it's robust enough and if you like, cybersecurity proof. But I have to say that to get a system cybersecurity proof really would require that the technological infrastructure is robust. Okay, there isn't really a guarantee that cybersecurity would be guaranteed 100%. There's always the potential. Now, in terms of merging it with permissionless blockchains such as Ethereum, one of the things that we're seeing is that we're at the point of intersection between two blockchains, and particularly looking at permissionless blockchains, we find that the bridge between one blockchain to another is usually a honeypot for hacks, cyber hacks, and cyber threats. So again, things have to be really carefully managed from a cybersecurity perspective if there's a potential that this blockchain would merge with other blockchains, including sort of permissionless ones, such as, for example, Ethereum, as the reports that we're looking at kind of suggests. So yes, the cybersecurity framework have to be robust.
Okay, so this proposed project is expected to get the private and public sector working together to actually develop an homegrown blockchain. You mentioned a few things that the government should do in terms of providing enabling environments, in terms of the framework, implementation of the rules and laws that should guide this. What about the private sector? Are there specific roles that they should be playing in order to make sure that this becomes reality?
Yes, so I mean, the thinking around this is that this blockchain platform would be provided and managed by the public sector, and the private sector would be able to build on top of those to be able to deliver their services. Now, it's a brilliant idea when you kind of look at the mechanics as to how this can work. Particularly, we're thinking of digitizing the economy, or in the way that we're talking about it in this day and age, tokenization of the economy. And basically what that would mean is that the private sector or private sector organizations, whether they're banks, whether they're, any type of organizations that want to plug into the system, would be able to do so, building their own infrastructure on it. So basically the underlying blockchain would allow for those developments, right? And the report also mentions that there would be the potential to actually build, for example, other types of public services, whether that's sort of the land registry infrastructure on it. It also talks about sort of potential to actually include, for example, the eNaira blockchain framework on top of this potential blockchain called Nigerium. But again, we're told, of course, the name could change. So there's for the infrastructure to actually work in a way that it should, it would be important to get the private sector buy-in on it, on this journey to the tokenization of the economy, or the digitization, if you like, of the economy. So yes, but obviously we would need education. The education campaign and the public campaign around such a blockchain would have to be huge, because of course we're quite aware that there have been various initiatives like this that haven't actually gone very far, and so there's a need actually to have the buy-in of all parties, the public sector, the private sector, of course, driven from the federal government, and the expectation really would be that the various agencies will plug into it. Also, the expectations would be that the various spheres, if you like, of the government will plug into it as well. And that's both at the state level and at the local government level. So basically, we're looking at a blockchain that's very robust. And of course, because this is going to be a very big blockchain, we need to think more around sort of scalability and what that would mean for the running, the consistent running of a blockchain such as this. Is a huge project.
Now, Doctor, of course, before we wrap up on this, yes, talking about scalability, let's tie that to the issue around legal and regulatory framework that you mentioned earlier, because you talked about permission-enabled blockchains and permissionless blockchains. And we know that, of course, this blockchain will be interacting with other blockchains across the globe. So do you foresee any potential legal hurdles that need to be addressed before accommodating the blockchain?
So, I mean, if this is driven by the government, right, and has the government buy-in, it would certainly be one where obviously the government will propose the bill that would potentially lead to, and if it's passed by the legislature, would lead to a statute or an act being passed, giving credibility or giving authorization for this blockchain to exist and operate. And that would be the backbone or the legal framework that would authorize this framework. And of course, at the back of that, we would then need to begin to look at the regulatory requirements for the various businesses and the various industries that would have to plug in. Beneficial to be plugged in. Again, as I say, on our journey towards digitizing the economy, linked of course with the tokenization of the economy, which obviously is a few years ahead. So the legal framework, to answer your question, really is, if this idea is taken on board, there would need to be obviously a law that is passed to give it authorization, and then all the other regulations would then be plugged into it, for the various public sector, private sector institutions that would, be attached or linked with it to operate on it.
Okay, and one will hope that these regulations will be like firewalls to prevent any form of attack against these blockchains. Dr. Iwa Salami, Director, Center for Fintech, University of East London. It was nice talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.